My name is Carlos de la Guardia, and I'm going to talk about the big green button. Okay, what is this stuff about buttons? Probably many of you follow Plone's mailing lists, and perhaps you have seen some philosophical debates about where Plone should go. How can we make Plone easier to work with? How can we make Plone easier for the end user and especially for the end developer? Not we that create the sites for our clients, but the developers who usually are not Plone experts who will get to be in charge of Plone sites. One of the themes that came up when this was discussed was an idea by Martin Spelli about some guys named Pete and Joe who inherit a Plone site and have to do something. One of the things they wonder was, okay, now that I create my site, how do I publish my site? This is an idea that many people that use other frameworks and other web tools usually have. Okay, I want now to create my site. I want to make it. How do I host my site on a $10 a month or $1 a month hosting service? What do I do when I want to publish the site? As you know, maybe you have tried, but you can't host Plone on a $1 per month site. You can host Plone on a $10 per month site unless you're willing to do everything, you being root and all. The idea of the green button is that these guys, Pete and Joe, they have their site ready. They go to a control panel. They press a green button, and the site is published to a static HTML set of pages, which they can just import into their site, into their hosting provider, whoever that is. And they have a working site, and they don't have to install Plone or anything on the hosting site. That's the dream of the big green button. You can see other buttons there on the picture. That's because there are many buttons missing in Plone to make it easier to use for end developers and to simplify it. Right now, Martin Spelli is on another room, which I'm sure will be really full, and he is speaking about simplifying Plone. Well, here is one attempt at making Plone simpler for the end users, for the end developers, and well, you'll see how it goes. To start with this, and you know it, and that's why many of you are here, we have a great CMS. Plone is great. It works very good for what it does. If you install it out of the box, you have a great thing. You can do very beautiful sites, especially very usable sites with lots of stuff. You have workflow, you have content rules, you have content types, which can do very different things. It's not that hard to create new content types using archetypes. So you can have a very good thing. Plus, we have a great community. If you came to the conference since yesterday, you saw on the big room there were 300 people. We are a big community, and Plone, one of Plone's main strengths is just that. We are a great community. We have a lot of people who can contribute a lot of things. So Plone is very good. Plus, there are some things that we have that not many other open source projects have. For example, there was a Plone Summit where we tried to capture what goals and what dreams we had about Plone and give some direction to the project. We are, as you saw yesterday too, one of the biggest open source development projects. I mean, we have a lot of collaborators for the project. We may not be the most used product, open source CMS out there, but we certainly have a lot of developers for the size of the community. Plus, if you look at polls and studies about which CMS are best, which CMS are used the most, Plone usually comes in third or second behind some PHP solution like, for example, Drupal or Joomla. But Plone constantly is there in the list, even though our community are community of users is much smaller than PHP community. So we're doing some things very, very right, and we have to take advantage of all those things. We also have an eye for the user. We have, like Alan Ronyan was saying yesterday, we are one of the few projects who has a published manual for the end user, not for the developers, for the end user. So we have a lot of things going for us. This question has surfaced and resurfaced in conference after conference. Some guys shiver just at the thought of trying to answer it. And some guys just say, what's the point? Who cares? I use it and it's okay. But there is one teeny tiny point. There's the way you use it, the way you think about your whole site architecture depends on how you answer that question. Let me explain. A product, you know, we think about a box, you go get the box, take the product out of the box, and you use it. And it's supposed to be simple and easy and fast and really no problem at all. If the product is good, you can do many things with the product, and you can make a best use of the product if you know what it has, how to use it, etc. When you have a framework, you have one set of tools that work in one predefined way, and you have to plug whatever you want to do into those rules that are defined by the framework. So it's not as straightforward as get it out of the box and use it. You now have to think, where are you going to put your pieces? And most importantly, you have to be up to the task of defining those pieces, designing those pieces. And if you really, really want your result to be good plone, you need to find out exactly how plone works and what are the best practices from plone, and a lot of things that require a lot of time investment, a lot of knowledge. If your expertise is in other areas, there is no plone or Python, you're going to have a really, really tough learning curve. If some of you have customers who have assigned websites to some of their developers and they previously did PHP or they did ASP or whatever, you'll find out that it's not easy to get into the plone mind mode, and it's not easy to build good products. Even one of plone's pluses, which is the existence of the plone collective, is a very good example of what I'm saying. You can find there dozens of products, and many of those are really not very good code in plone's standards. Not really, most of them don't really use SOAP 3 patterns and principles, which is supposedly how you have to work with plone these days. So it's not that simple. You just don't have the framework and use it. If you're going to use a framework, you have to have a set of mind, an investment of time and knowledge that not everybody has. Of course, since plone is a very flexible framework, you can do anything with plone. You can think of almost any kind of application and put it on top of plone. And chances are, if you know what you're doing and you're intelligent, you know that you are not supposed to really do that. But our customers, they don't know. So sometimes they want us to do stuff like that. And they say, I want that. And how do you go about telling them that plone can't do it? You pretty much can't, because it turns out that it can. Of course, not in the best way, not in the simplest way, not in the fastest way, not in the best interest for the client many times, but it can. And so we force ourselves to implement these amazing solutions which are built completely using plone and have a lot of parts all built as plone products and plone content types, because somebody made us think that everything has to be a content type. And we add a lot of complexity to what could be a more simpler problem. So yes, plone is very powerful. Since Python is behind that, you really can do lots of stuff. But so many times you end up fighting the framework. What is this, fighting the framework? You have an idea, you have an objective, you have a set of goals for the project, you have clearly defined screens of what the project must do, what it must be like, but you have to bend plone, you have to force plone into submission to make it do what you want to do. You don't want this bullet here, you don't want this bullet there. Well, you have to know how to make the bullets go, how to make the bullets disappear. And even then, there are things that you really can't do very easily. So maybe some people think that you can patch a little bits of plone here and there to make it do what you want, to make it simpler. Everybody here may have heard of the term monkey patch, which is a simple patch that is applied to a product at the time it starts to make it behave in a different way. There are products that almost entirely depend on monkey patches or modifications to plone to work correctly. Even when we don't want to modify plone, there are times where plone's behavior really affects us. So the client can come and say, I don't want portlets here, I want a portlet here in the middle, and I want a combination of portlet with this content, and I want all the pages to be like this and have this stuff, but these pages should be a completely different application with a completely different theme. And you know that plone can be stretched to do what the customer wants, but sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. That's because plone is complex. You might think when a product can do lots of things, that's good. Just look at that, a lot of functionality in there. Yeah, but how do you exactly go about getting the best out of that functionality? How do you exactly get to create great sites when you first have to digest all of that functionality? And you know what can be done easily with plone, but the customer doesn't know. So he's going to want you to plug this thing that is up there into this thing that is down here. And maybe you can do it, but it's going to take a lot of time. Maybe, just maybe, plone is not a solution that should be used for every project. Since plone is the most visible SOAP application right now, many clients, many customers, they hear about these technologies first. They hear plone. And so they want their sites to be built with plone, which is the famous kit. So why do we build the site with something that's not famous? You use the thing that's famous. There's a reason that plone is famous for. So you start to get into this complex labyrinth of technologies. If you have taken a look at how portlets work, for example, you want to insert some text, some graphic in the upper corner there. Why does it have to be so hard sometimes? You have to know about portlet managers, and you have to have content providers, and you have to know about all those SOAP 3 terms. You just want to insert a text box there. Another plone problem, traffic. When the site gets traffic, you're in trouble. That's because plone does a lot of things, and that makes plone slow. Plone is slow. Plone does so many things that sometimes it's just slow. And when the traffic comes, there are bottlenecks, and the CODB can be a very big bottleneck when you are committing transactions for everything, and when you are over-abusing the catalog, or some other little sins that we do when we create plone sites. So is caching the only traffic? Yesterday, in Joel Borton's talk about intranets, he went very fast with the last slides, but I don't know if anybody looked at his deployment slides when he was saying you need 1 or 2 machines for 500 users, but try to make them not log in. And that's on one of the greatest trainers out there on Plone, and he's telling you, try not to get the users to log in because that will be very slow and you're going to need lots and lots of machines. So if he is telling us right now, and many of us may have created sites for our customers when 60 to 70% of the time after the site deployment is spent fixing performance problems. That's because, well, Plone may not be the best answer for delivering content. When you want to do dynamic stuff and when you want to enter into this Web 2.0 world and you want to create these applications where a lot of people enter content, which the Plone system really can't handle that for thousands of users. So the usual response in the Plone community is you want performance, apply caching, put a squid in front, put varnish in front. But I want also that my users, my 70,000 daily visitors, can create some content when they feel like it. Try not to make them log in. That's really not enough. Since Plone is expensive, how can we use Plone and use the best thing of Plone, but don't incur into all this debt? For example, you know, when you have a site for a customer, sometimes your customer doesn't need workflow. Sometimes your customer doesn't need the build architecture, or they don't need a lot of stuff. They just need a simple website. They want their managers to use Plone, but they also want it. They don't need all the complexity that Plone has. But we are doomed because Plone is a framework and it's a package and everything goes together, so you have to put up with it. What if you could just eat what you want? Select whatever looks good to you and then create a site which does just that. There are some tools which we can use. Since Plone directly right now cannot do it, and there's a lot of work being done thinking about Plone 4 and simplifying Plone and making more options for the user. But right now, that's just philosophy. How do you, right now, take advantage of Plone, and how do you make it do just what you want to do, eat just what you want to eat, and do not pay all the price for using Plone? There are some tools which you can use. Content Mirror is one of them. There was a talk yesterday about it. I don't know if anybody has heard about it, but what it does is it sits inside your Plone site. You register all the content types that you want to work with it, and whenever you make any change to any content type or add a new content type, it calls an SQL Alchemy program that it has, and everything goes into the SQL database. So all the content that you create in Plone gets silently and completely transparently stored in the relational layer. Plone behaves exactly the same. You don't notice anything, and that's one of the great things of Content Mirror, and I urge you to check it out and try it, because it sets you free to get to your content from outside Plone. And at the same time, it's completely inside Plone, and it's aware of any change that you do to the content so that nothing gets lost, and you have a window, another way to enter and use that content. And what I propose is to use other applications as front end and use Plone for what is better, content management system. Plone is a great content management system. Use it for that. But how about thinking about different front ends? Many people like the fact that Plone can be a very easy way to edit the content and in the same view immediately look at what you created. And that's good, but that's not scalable. And that's really not enough for when you want dynamic applications, since Plone has all the problems of speed that we discussed earlier. So if you get the content out, but still completely tied to your Plone site, you can have your content managers use the CMS and you can do whatever you want on the front-end side. Content mirror is the first step. Now that we have the content out, how do we present it? I don't know if you have heard about WSGI, but it's a common standard for connecting web application frameworks or web applications with each other. This allows us to use very different pieces of Python software and connect them. The idea of connecting different tubes that you can see here is referring to the fact that you can have middleware, that is, some parts of the whole architecture are just programs that sit in the middle of everything, and they take care of one simple detail or a couple of simple details, but they do it expressly and they do it well. So you can connect with WSGI, you can connect many Python tools, many Python frameworks, and really start to see how you can use the wider Python world into your applications and how you can present your application using these kind of components.
With that, do you have to be running everything with the same Python version if you're running with Wiki?
Generally, you can, but you can use the newest version if you want, and you can have some tools run with different versions. Since they can be even on different servers, you can have a very different environment in one server than in the other. So we have WSGI, which allows Python web applications to interconnect with each other. We have a great CMS, which is Plone. We want to have a good front end. There is one thing that tries to bridge the gap between the world of Plone and SOAP. As you may know, or you may not know, in the community we are kind of look like an outcast, like the users of a framework that was somewhere in time a promising Python framework, but right now it's not so much. That's because they consider us, and I hate this term, unPythonic. And that is because we have all those things like this CODB, like the SOAP3 interfaces and etc., which really seem alien to many on the Python community. We also, since we all use those special tools, most of the things that we create for Plone, for SOAP, they are only useful for SOAP and for Plone. How can we make our stuff more easily accessible to other parts of the Python community? And that's what Repose, which is a set of tools and it also kind of a philosophy by Agendaless, which is a company created by some old SOAP old-timers. They try to give us tools to put Plone in a WSGI environment and interconnect different things together, and finally give other users in the Python community the chance to use some SOAP tools. Right now we have Repose catalog, which allows people to use a similar thing to the SOAP catalog, but without depending on anything else than a few packages from SOAP. And other Repose Plone, which allows Plone to connect directly into a WSGI pipeline, which then allows us to have Plone and, for example, Track, or for example, I don't know, another Python application in there, a Pylons application, a Django application on the same server, and not having all those separate processes that we use with SOAP. This is a very interesting tool, and one of the objectives of this tool is to get us closer to the Python community, which I think it's doing well. There's a lot of people beginning to know Repose, and there's a talk tomorrow about it, so you would do well to attend if you're interested in these concepts. And there will be a sprint on Saturday, so there is a lot of work being done in trying to make plone play well with other frameworks, with other systems in the Python world. One of the things that Repose has made is a web framework, which is called Repose BFG. It's a very simple Python framework. Never mind the name, Chris McDonough, who created it, he said he would think of a better name later, and he maybe is still thinking. But right now, we have Repose BFG, and as I say, pay no attention to the name. What it does, it's a simple web framework in the style of, for example, pylons, taking some concepts from Django, but using all the things that we know how to use in the SOAP world, like CPT templates. It can use the CODB. So you are not completely in a different world when you use Repose BFG. You still have the tools you are used to, but it's a simple web framework, and you can build exactly what you need when you need. My idea is to use Repose BFG to create a front end for the plone content. Another key on the puzzle, another key piece on the puzzle is deliverance. You may have seen those towns where fake front ends are placed for some buildings to make them look beautiful. If you look behind the front ends, well, that's ugly, and maybe it's even painted on different colors on every part of the wall. But if you are walking in the front side, you get a very nice view. Deliverance is a WSGI middleware which can allow you to theme a website on the go, or if you want, theme it before you present it. And it takes some content, which can be any kind of content, not just plone content, any kind of content, any kind of HTML, and it transforms it into this new theme that you may have designed. So that gives you developers, your designers, the chance to create their own HTML, CSS, without getting to know plone skins, without getting into any trouble with acquisition or anything of that usually happens to them. They don't have to know anything about bullets or content providers or anything. They just do HTML, the CSS, and you create one rule file, one simple rule file, which connects the theme with the HTML. As you can see, I'm not proposing one solution, but to take different parts from different solutions from the world of Python and use them together. So that plone can be a part of the Python universe, which is bigger and bigger. Python is getting used everywhere. And we usually don't get much recognition from the rest of the Python folks, nor do our products get used by them that much. One way to change it is to enable them to use our best stuff without having to get into all that learning curves and technology acquaintances. When we have that, we can use best-of-breed applications. You have WSGI, you can put track, you can put an application made with pylons together with it, you can put the plone site, and you can put still another different site, perhaps made with Grok, and make all work together seamlessly, applying as a compositional theme created by Deliverance, and giving it the same look and feel. Users will never know that plone is in there. Advantages, it's that it's simple. It's a lot simpler to create a front end when you have, you don't have to worry about all those things that plone has to take track of to manage the content. You just worry about your front end. And it's fast. It's really a lot faster than using plone. And we're going to see a little of this right now. So if you once dreamed that your plone site could be faster, this could be a way to get it faster. Oh, wrong button. So I have a plone site here. You will forgive the startup time, but it's plone. Okay, here it comes. Oh. Hey, it's localhost. Why couldn't it? What?
It's saying that you're offline. Go to the edit. I think it's edit or file. In the file menu.
Oh, but I need to access the site, not with the file.
No, but you gotta tell it that you are online.
Okay, this one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have a plone site here. And well, we created for this, we created a product that allows the content managers to create sites. So in this directory, we have a few websites. This is a website which has some sections. The content manager, he's thinking in terms of a completely different website than what's on the plone site. The idea for a project, which is a project being done at the Library of Congress in Chile, is to have a single source of content, a single CMS with content from many different sites, and still have the content managers able to work on one single plone site and create completely separate sites. So we defined this website, and it has some sections which show the different things that are inside the site. And inside the section, you can add content. You can add new sections, of course, always. And inside the section, you can add content. Directly from the site. Yeah, I'll use just this as an example. Right now I'm adding just one piece of content, but imagine the site manager is choosing content from all over the site and creating his own website with his own sections. The sections doesn't have to be the same as what is on the site. They don't have to be called the same. They don't have to have the same content. You just pick and choose. You can pick complete folders, and everything inside the folder gets added in there. And each page, we have in Plone, we have this main template that we use for the sites. And many times we have a customer that says, I want this page to look like this, but this section has to look completely different, and my content manager has to be able to change completely the look and feel of this other section. So we usually end up having like 16, 18 different kind of front pages for the different sections of the site. And doing that with the main template is not always feasible. you have one layout with the columns and everything, and if you want to change that, sometimes you have to do a lot of changes. Besides, we are talking here of having different sites, so it won't do to have them look the same. So we have a layout. Uh-oh. I think I need the access to the internet.
Oh, sorry,
No.
can you try plone 2008? Sorry, I didn't realize.
Can we use a cable?
Yeah. Can you try?
You know what? I think there are some JavaScript files which I forgot to put in here. So sorry about that.
Hit the thing. Can you open a new tab?
I'm trying to connect. I'm not getting anything.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see if this.
Try now.
It's trying. Okay, I'll show you the layout later, but with this layout tab, I created a, oh no, I still need to see this. No, it's not getting there.
Can I see your? See this?
Well, in a minute, we'll see if we can get to the layout. But what you do with the layout editor, it is not really visible right now, but you get different boxes where you can place your content. You then select some content from the site. For example. And it's there on the page. And you can then select, different views for this content. Right now, I don't have a lot of views, but you can see what it does. So you can create your layouts, your page layouts. You can compose it. Whoops. The way that you want.
Which product is that?
It's one that we made for the project. It's probably gonna be open source, but the project is right now in the middle of development, so it's not available at this moment. you can see that I elected an article in the first example, and now I'm using a different kind of document. And you get different violets depending on the kind of content that you have. So I can show a folder listing. I can move this around as I want. And put them whenever I please. I think that we are done. No. Well, so that's how it works. You then publish the content, and what we're doing is this content, I have to finish quickly because time is up on me, but what you do with this content is you produce an independent application, a repose BFG application that you can run on its own. You can even choose to have access to the very same content database if you want the live data, or you can create a mirror of the database to just keep using it from then on, in case you want to install another server or do something different. Once you do that, I start this repose BFG application, which is a Python application. You probably noticed that it just started in the very second I pressed return, so it's a little bit faster. Just this moment. And well, you can see the piece of content that I put in, it's right here. It's not cleaned up or anything, but it's there.
Do you have benchmark comparisons between?
I'll do one better. I'll show you.
Okay.
It's okay. Let's say 100.
You have an extra slot. Oh, the port number.
What? Oh, thank you. This is plone. And this is plone. While plone finishes, let's here it is. Oh, that was a bit unfair because the first request always takes more time, but we're gonna do exactly the same with the Python side, so that would be equitative. And this time it's the root of the site because we don't have any. Whoops, it finished. So we have that plone gives me 6.7 requests per second. On the fresh site, it doesn't have anything but the 2 or 3 products that I used to create this. 6.70 requests per second. And in the BFG application, something's wrong here because I was getting like 150 before I came, but it's 50.
It's still a difference.
Believe me, this is way less than it did before. But since I don't have the network set up right and everything, that may be part of the problem. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. My laptop may not be that fast, but I swear I ran it before. Okay, it doesn't matter. We get 6 requests, we get 50, and I consider it an extremely disappointing result, getting 50 requests per second. So you may have an idea of exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying that it can be fast. This code isn't even optimized, it's just a very early stage code. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to get 200 requests per second at least when this is finished. This is all going to be open source, and this is, wait for it at the beginning of next year, I guess. And this is one proposal that I have. Why not use plone for what it does best, which is the CMS, and use other Python stuff, there are great Python tools out there which we can use, and we can integrate together and use them for the front end, and you get the best of both worlds. Thank you very much. Very sorry about the JavaScript problems.
Hey, I also wanted to mention that we're doing a repose BOF on Friday. So if you're interested in repose and some of the technologies that you use, please
No
use the BOF.
I forgot that I had the JavaScript. I would have asked before.
Yeah,